of enhancing evolution with genetic points is that with each evolution, his body shape will change slightly. After many evolutions, the difference between his appearance and that of an ant grew larger and larger. Too bad, it's just goblins. Looking at his second panel, Subai sighed softly. Even if he mutated into a goblin king, he would still only be a mid-tier boss in the game world. When the game started and players descended, he would still be inevitably hunted down and become experience for numerous players. If this mutation were to transform him into a legendary creature like a giant dragon, a winter night demon wolf, or even an evil eye tyrant, he might have been tempted. Choose main body evolution. Invest all genetic points into this evolution to enhance the main body evolution. Ultimately, Subai continued to choose main body evolution. Selection complete. This evolution will last 60 minutes. Please ensure the surrounding environment is safe. Evolution starting. Accompanied by the crisp system notification, Subai plunged into a pre-prepared cave, losing consciousness. A long time later, Subai awoke from his slumber. After the fourth evolution, his body length reached a full 50 centimeters, and he was 20 centimeters tall. His entire carapace shimmered with a dark light, like armor forged from steel. His originally soft antennae had hardened, gleaming with a sharp cold light, pointing forward. His two pairs of walking legs were further strengthened and became more flexible. The biggest change, however, was his two scythe-like forelegs. After gaining the passive skill, Scythe Forelegs, Subai's first pair of limbs mutated into the shape of two scythes, becoming his primary means of hunting later on. After this evolution, perhaps due to the integration of nearly 2,000 goblin genetic points, this pair of limbs changed again, transforming from sides into claws like those of a feline. The 5 sharp claws, 4 in front and 1 behind, gleamed with a dazzling cold light, like 5 sharp daggers, even sharper and more lethal than the previous scythe-like forelegs. I'm looking less and less like an ant. I wonder what I'll look like after a few more evolutions. Flexing his newly formed claws, Subai gave a wry smile and opened his attribute panel. Name, Subai. Species, Overlord Ant. Template, Advanced Attribute Template. Level, 7. Status, Life 500, Mana 250. Attributes, Strength 32, Agility 25, Constitution 30, Spirit 25. Talents, Soul Point Allocation, Devour Evolution, Adaptability. Skills, Sharp Claws, Tough Carapace, Limb Regeneration, Intermediate Poison Resistance, Intermediate Fire Resistance, Intermediate Frost Resistance, Shadow Stealth. Genetic points, 0 points. Evolution points, 338 points. Skill fragments, none. Soul points, 6 points. In this evolution, his strength increased by 15 points, agility by 9 points, constitution by 11 points, and spirit by 6 points. His current attributes already far exceeded those of other monsters of the same level. Subai believed that his current strength was probably no less than that of Goblin General Hog. Next was the skill extraction after the successful 4th evolution. Due to the goblin genes invested in this evolution, all 4 newly acquired skills were goblin-related. Heavy Strike, active skill. Consumes half of your stamina to deal physical damage equal to strength *2 to an enemy, with a small chance to inflict a grievous wound. Savage Throw, active skill. Consumes half of your stamina to unleash an extraordinary throw, dealing savage damage equal to strength *2 to an enemy. Lesser Fireball, active skill. Consumes 20 mana to cast a lesser fireball, dealing fire damage equal to spirit *2 to an enemy, and inflicting a burning effect. Lesser Ice Arrow, active skill. Consumes 20 mana to fire a lesser ice arrow, dealing ice damage equal to spirit *2 to an enemy, and inflicting a slowing effect. Heavy Strike, came from Goblin Warriors, Savage Throw, from Goblin Throwers, and Lesser Fireball and Lesser Ice Arrow, from Fire Goblins and Ice Goblins, respectively. After a brief moment of thought, Subai chose the Heavy Strike skill. No other reason, all his passive skills were related to physical damage. While the 2 magic skills dealt high damage, for him, choosing physical damage skills would yield greater benefits. As for the stamina cost of Heavy Strike, Su Bai silently added a point to Heavy Strike. Level 2 Heavy Strike. The stamina consumption changed from half to a quarter, and the damage dealt increased from Strength *2 to Strength *2.5. Keep adding. Level 3 Heavy Strike. Continue. When the third soul point was added to Heavy Strike, which had already reached level 3, both Heavy Strike and Shadow Lurk became blurred. Then, both skills disappeared simultaneously, replaced by a new skill. Shadow Ambush, passive skill. When in shadows or behind cover, your stealth effect is greatly enhanced. When you actively exit stealth, you gain a speed bonus equal to agility *2 for 2 seconds. When you attack an enemy from stealth, your next attack deals physical damage equal to strength *5, with a high chance to inflict a grievous wound. A very powerful skill. Merging Heavy Strike and Shadow Lurk, this new skill could definitely serve as Su Bai's trump card. 5 times his strength in physical damage, it was likely that no one, except for a boss, could withstand his sudden attack. Looking at the remaining 3 soul points, Su Bai clicked on Tough Carapace, upgrading it to Reinforced Carapace, further enhancing his defensive capabilities. He didn't close his attribute panel until there were no more skills to improve. The 5th evolution required a full 10,000 evolution points, and raising his attribute template from advanced to elite level required hunting elite monsters, neither of which he could accomplish in a short time. So, his next goal was to break into the Goblin stronghold, slay Goblin General Hog, and complete the quest the system had given him. I hope Hog doesn't disappoint me. With a soft murmur, Su Bai's figure quickly vanished into the forest. Deep within the gloomy jungle, a vast expanse of dilapidated tents stretched as far as the eye could see, densely packed among the trees. Thousands of goblins lived in these hundreds of tents. In the center of this tent village, a clearing spanning several hundred square meters had been made. A particularly large tent, constructed from branches and mud, stood in the middle of the clearing. This large tent was Goblin General Hog's palace. Compared to ordinary goblins, Hog was a full 2 meters tall and incredibly robust. He didn't look like a goblin, he resembled the green-skinned orcs living in the northern continent. Not only was Hog exceptionally strong, but he also possessed an intelligence that ordinary goblins lacked. After inheriting his ancestors' legacy, Hog had once left the gloomy jungle to venture into the human world, even experiencing being captured by human slave traders and given as a slave to a minor human noble. It was this experience that showed Hog the might of humanity. After escaping from human hands through immense hardship, Hog conceived the idea of unifying the goblins and establishing a goblin kingdom in the gloomy jungle. Relying on his formidable strength, Hog successfully conquered and unified the goblin tribes in the gloomy jungle. Just as he was preparing to expand the goblins' power, unify the gloomy jungle, and establish a goblin kingdom, bad news began to arrive in succession. In less than 10 days, over a dozen goblin camps lost contact, and hundreds of goblins vanished without a trace. For the goblins of the gloomy jungle, whose total population was only a few thousand, these vanished hundreds accounted for a tenth of their total numbers. When the news arrived, Hog was furious. Large numbers of goblin scouts and guards were dispatched to patrol the forest, hoping to catch the enemy hunting goblins. However, most of these scouts and guards also lost contact after leaving the goblin city. No one seen alive, no bodies found dead. It was as if an invisible demon was lurking in the darkness, devouring the goblin race. This pattern repeated. After losing a large number of goblin scouts and guards, Hog had no choice but to gather most of the goblins in Goblin City, hoping to reduce the losses to their race. Angry and terrified, Hog had no idea that the demon devouring the goblins had already quietly arrived at Goblin City. Outside the Goblin Royal Palace, Su Bai lay quietly in wait within a dense thicket of bushes. The stealth effect granted by the skill, Shadow Assault, allowed him to infiltrate the heart of the Goblin City without being detected by a single goblin. He was now quietly observing the goblins guarding the perimeter of the royal palace. Standing before the large tent was a massive goblin, easily 2 meters tall, clad in imposing jet-black armor, and wielding a long-handled broadsword. This was undoubtedly his target. This was Geoj, the great goblin general, a level 15 goblin conqueror, the novice village's great boss, possessing the Lord Grade template. Standing beside Geoj was a small, white-robed spellcaster, a level 14 goblin priest, possessing the champion grade template. Guarding the perimeter were 4 goblin centurions, fully clad in heavy armor and wielding two-handed greatswords. All 4 centurions were level 12, stood 1.7 meters tall, and possessed elite-grade attribute templates. Finally, there were over 20 level 10 goblin royal guards. Compared to the centurions, the royal guards were only about 1.5 meters tall, wore slightly tattered leather armor, and their weaponry was inconsistent, consisting of long swords, broadswords, or long spears. Nevertheless, the combat power of every royal guard surpassed the advanced goblins Subai had encountered before. Close to 30 goblins in total. Subai silently ran the calculations in his mind. If he could wipe out this entire group, the rewards would be immense. Setting aside the potential system rewards for completing the quest, the attribute templates alone constituted a massive fortune. 1 Lord Grade template, 1 Champion Grade template, and 4 Elite Grade templates. Integrating these into his own structure could potentially elevate Subai's template to Elite Grade, or perhaps even Champion Grade. Not to mention the vast amount of experience, evolution points, and soul points that would come from hunting them. If he managed to complete Annihilation, Subai would truly strike it rich in one fell swoop. However, he was no match for this many goblins in a direct confrontation. To take them down, he needed a precise strategy. After a moment of contemplation, Subai's figure slowly vanished. A few minutes later, a patrolling squad of goblin hunters discovered over 10 dead goblins near the city's edge. One goblin hunter rushed off to report to Geoj, while the others cautiously began searching the surrounding area. Before that first hunter even reached the royal palace, another scouting party also discovered a significant number of dead goblins. When the news reached Geoj, the great goblin general flew into a rage. He immediately ordered a goblin centurion to take 5 royal guards to investigate the scene and search for the enemy. However, by then, Subai had already moved to a different location and resumed his slaughter of the goblins. Time trickled by. The goblin centurion failed to find any trace of the enemy, but the number of locations where dead goblins were found continued to rise, totaling over a dozen spots scattered across the goblin city. Geoj was enraged, and he ordered the remaining 2 goblin centurions to split up, each taking 5 royal guards to search for the perpetrator. He himself, along with the goblin priest and the final goblin centurion, joined the search for the enemy. It's a pity I can't fully isolate Geoj from the rest of the goblins. No matter. I'll just clip your wings piece by piece. Subai, who had been hiding in the shadows and orchestrating this chaos, saw that even Geoj had joined the hunt. He ceased the slaughter of common goblins and quietly began stalking a goblin centurion who had strayed far from the main search party. %U and #*@. Stay alert and search carefully. Goblin language. Clad in heavy armor and wielding a great sword, the goblin centurion was an imposing sight. It directed its 5 royal guards to begin searching the area around a tent where a corpse had been discovered. Just as it passed a patch of bushes, preparing to check if an enemy was hidden within, a black shadow suddenly materialized. Hidden within the thicket. When the centurion was only 2 meters away, Subai struck. Shadow Assault. With his agility score of 25, amplified by the speed boost from Shadow Assault, Subai shot toward the goblin centurion like an arrow released from a bowstring. Before the centurion could even register what was happening, Subai was already upon it. Snap! A cold glint flashed. Boosted by the Shadow Assault attack, the Calicari, already capable of tearing through steel, effortlessly severed the goblin centurion's neck. The massive head tumbled away. The centurion's heavy armor had been utterly useless, and its body collapsed onto the ground. Ding! You have slain a goblin centurion, gaining 1000 EXP and 1 soul point. You have slain a goblin centurion above your level. The goblin centurion possessed an elite grade attribute template. You have acquired the Goblin Centurion's attribute template. The system prompts rang out as expected. At that moment, the 5 royal guards trailing the Centurion spotted Subai's figure and began screaming hysterically. **%UN #@UN hashtag. The Black Demon. The Black Demon killed Centurion Lord. Subai sneered, accelerating suddenly. His figure flashed among the royal guards, and his cold, gleaming claws lashed out. Bang! Splat! Ding! You have slain a Goblin Royal Guard, gaining 300 EXP. One royal guard's head was smashed, and another's heart was pierced. Before Joj and the other Centurions could hear the screams and rush to the scene, Subai killed the remaining 3 royal guards one by one, then re-entered stealth and vanished back into the bushes. Ding! You have slain a Goblin Royal Guard, gaining 300 EXP. *UN% at hashtag. Find it. Kill it. Goblin language. When the news of the Goblin Centurion and 5 Goblin Royal Guards being killed by the Black Demon reached Gog, the Goblin General was furious. Ordinary goblins are timid, foolish, and cowardly. As long as it doesn't affect the reproduction and survival of the race, he wouldn't care how many died. The Goblin Centurions and Goblin Royal Guards were painstakingly cultivated by him. They were the foundation for maintaining his rule and establishing the Goblin Kingdom. The death of every Goblin Centurion and Goblin Royal Guard was a huge loss to him. In his rage, Gog wished he could immediately find Subai and tear him to shreds. At this moment, Subai had already stealthily approached the second Goblin Centurion. Shadow ambush. The black figure shot out like an arrow from a bowstring. Before the Goblin Centurion could react, Subai had already pounced behind it. Demon. Black Demon. Amidst the terrified cries of the Goblin Royal Guards, the Goblin Centurion hastily turned around, but it was too late. The corner of its eye only caught 5 flashes of sharp, cold light, and its unprotected neck was instantly torn apart. Green blood gushed out, and the Goblin Centurion's massive body crashed to the ground, slowly losing consciousness. Ding! You have killed a Goblin Centurion, gaining 1000 experience points. You have killed a Goblin Centurion above your level. The Goblin Centurion possesses an elite attribute template. You have acquired the attribute template possessed by the Goblin Centurion. The system's notification sounded as expected. Glancing at Gog, who was already rushing towards him, Subai clawed and killed the 5 Goblin Royal Guards who were just about to counterattack, then plunged into the bushes. Thanks to the powerful stealth effect of the shadow ambush skill, as long as he entered the shadows or behind cover, he could quickly hide his figure. Unless directly exposed in front of the goblins, these foolish monsters would not discover him. Bastard! Come out! I'm going to kill you! Rushing to the side of the dead Goblin Centurion, Gog howled in anger, brandishing the long-handled greatsword in his hand, cutting down all the grass and trees within a few meters. Having lost 2 Goblin Centurions and 10 Goblin Royal Guards in a row, anger was about to overwhelm Gog's sanity. But he was not those lowly goblins after all. He knew what to do at this moment. An order was relayed, and the Centurion, who was far from Gog, quickly brought 5 Goblin Royal Guards closer to Gog. The Black Demon was no match for him. Gog was very confident. As long as the Goblin Centurions and Goblin Royal Guards returned to his side, the Black Demon would not dare to appear. Then he would use ordinary goblins as bait to lure out and kill the Black Demon, and the crisis of Goblin City would be resolved. This was Gog's strategy. Unfortunately, Gog overestimated his wisdom and underestimated Subai's speed. When Gog's order was conveyed and the Goblin Centurion led the Goblin Royal Guards towards Gog, Subai was already waiting on their inevitable path of convergence. When the Goblin Centurion was only dozens of meters away from Gog, the demon reappeared. It was still the familiar black figure. It was still the 5 sharp claws shining like blades. No! Amidst Gog's disbelieving gaze and angry roars, the 3rd Goblin Centurion crashed to the ground. Ding! You have killed a Goblin Centurion, gaining 1000 experience points and 1 soul point. You have killed a Goblin Centurion above your level. The Goblin Centurion possesses an elite attribute template. You have acquired the attribute template possessed by the Goblin Centurion. He did not continue to attack the Goblin Royal Guards. Subai smiled slightly, his black body quickly rushed into the forest, and after a few leaps, he disappeared from Gog's sight. Coward, come out. This general will kill you personally. I will tear you to shreds. The angry roar spread far and wide. Gog rushed to the place where Subai disappeared, and his long-handled greatsword slashed down fiercely, instantly carving a deep mark on the ground. But no matter how angry he was, he still couldn't find Subai's figure. After a long while, Gog finally calmed down. He ordered the hunters, swordsmen, and warriors of Goblin City to continuously search for Subai's figure in the jungle, while he himself returned to the central clearing with the Goblin Priest and the last Goblin Centurion. The Black Demon was skilled in stealth. Fighting in the forest gave it a great advantage, whether for surprise attacks or escapes. The best way was to choose an open area without cover. The clearing outside the palace, Gog's training ground modeled after human lords, became the best choice. But, just as he returned to the clearing with the Goblin Priest, the Goblin Centurion, and the remaining 10 Goblin Royal Guards, an unexpected change occurred. Shadow ambush. Subai's figure suddenly rushed out from inside the tent, crossing several meters in an instant, appearing right next to Gog, in front of the Goblin Priest. The next moment, 5 sharp claws directly pierced through the Goblin Priest's head. Ding! You have killed a Goblin Priest, gaining 1500 experience points and 1 soul point. You have killed a Goblin Priest above your level. The Goblin Priest possesses a warrior attribute template. You have acquired the attribute template possessed by the Goblin Priest. A level 14 Goblin Priest with a warrior grade attribute template. Subai guessed that this Goblin Priest's health must have exceeded 500 points, possibly even reaching 1000. Even though spellcasters typically have weaker physiques, the Goblin Priest possessed a warrior grade attribute template. The health bonus alone from this template could give the Goblin Priest health comparable to a Goblin Centurion. If this were a regular game, even with Shadow Ambush, Subai wouldn't be able to instantly kill the Goblin Priest, let alone the previous Goblin Centurion. But this was not just a game. A game built upon an entire world implied an extraordinary degree of freedom. Weak point targeting and one-shot kills were genuinely possible. With sharp claws capable of tearing steel, the attack bonus from Shadow Ambush, and Subai consistently aiming for vulnerable spots like the heart, neck, and head, all these factors combined resulted in Subai instantly killing both the Goblin Centurion and the Goblin Priest with a single strike. Subai was thrilled to get the warrior grade attribute template, but Gog was enraged. #@*. Earth Splitter. Accompanied by an angry roar, Gog raised his long-handled greatsword high and brought it down with force. A large swath of sword light erupted from the greatsword, engulfing an area several meters around Subai. Having just killed the Goblin Priest, Subai was still in midair and couldn't dodge, taking the full impact. An immense force surged through him, sending his body flying backward as if struck by a train engine. Subai didn't hit the ground until he had flown over 10 meters away. Status: Health 389, Mana 250. Taking Gog's full force attack head-on, Subai lost a total of 111 health points. This was with his heavy plating passive skill, which greatly reduced damage. Even so, the plating on his back where he was hit was cracked. Without heavy plating, he probably would have lost most of his health and been severely wounded by this single blow. But for now, sacrificing over 100 health points for a warrior-grade attribute template and eliminating a priest who could continuously restore enemy health was completely worth it. After all, Subai possessed the limb regeneration passive skill. Forget losing some health, even if a limb was severed, he could recover by consuming a large amount of food. Having taken Gog's full force attack head-on and gauged his approximate strength, Subai remained calm. He knew he would win this time. He had a large supply of goblins as emergency rations to constantly heal his wounds. Gog, on the other hand, would have to endure his repeated ambushes, eventually losing his troops, and even dying by his claws. With a sneer, Subai sped up, dashing out of the clearing in the blink of an eye and disappearing into the jungle once more. Leader, the black demon ran away. The black demon is injured. The leader drove it off. Now the black demon won't dare to come back, right? After Su Bai's figure vanished, the last goblin centurion and 10 goblin guards gathered excitedly, shouting, "Black demon? Humph, just a coward. If it dares to appear again, I, General, will tear it to shreds." Having finally injured Su Bai, Gog was also overjoyed. He largely agreed with his subordinate's assessment. Before this, they had encountered countless powerful monsters, and once defeated, those monsters never appeared in Goblin City again. Even if they did reappear, those monsters would only dare to snatch a few ordinary goblins from a distance, never daring to step into Goblin City. Gog didn't care at all about losing a few ordinary goblins. Unfortunately, just a few minutes later, Su Bai's injuries were completely healed. He once again stealthily approached the clearing, and when the last goblin centurion was only a few meters away, he struck again. Shadow ambush. Undoubtedly, this last goblin centurion also became Su Bai's experience. Bastard! How dare you appear again? Gog, who had just relaxed and was planning for the future, thinking of cultivating a few more goblin centurions and goblin guards, watched as his last subordinate had its head bitten off by Su Bai and fell to the ground. Savage charge. His massive body transformed into a blur, and Gog appeared before Su Bai almost instantly, knocking him flying. Then, the long-handled greatsword was raised high and brought down again. Earth Splitter. A large swath of sword light erupted, blasting Su Bai away. However, this time, after landing, he didn't rush to escape. Instead, he charged into the goblin guards, his sharp claws slashing alternately, continuously harvesting their lives. Ding! You killed a goblin guard, gaining 300 experience points. Ding! You killed a goblin guard, gaining 300 experience points. In an instant, half of the 10 goblin guards suffered heavy losses under Su Bai's attack, falling to the ground. Only after the remaining goblin guards fled did Su Bai adjust his direction and charge towards Gog. In terms of strength and physique, Su Bai was far inferior to Gog. With the Lord Template bonus, Gog's health definitely far exceeded Su Bai's as well. But Su Bai's agility attribute surpassed Gog's. As long as he wasn't airborne, as long as he wasn't locked down by the savage charge skill, and without the hindrance of other goblins, Su Bai could completely dodge most of Gog's attacks. Coupled with various powerful passive skills, Su Bai could completely trade blows and defeat Gog. A head-on confrontation. Stealth, heal injuries, then continue the fight. The moment the first goblin centurion was annihilated, Gog's fate was already sealed. The beginner village's big boss was destined to fall under Su Bai's claws. Shadow assault. With a soft cry, Su Bai's figure once again leaped from the shadows, covering a distance of over 10 meters in an extremely short time, appearing beside Jeoj. His sharp calicery, like a pair of formidable scissors, fiercely clamped onto one of Jeoj's arms. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Jeoj's arm broke in response. Damn coward, if you have the guts, fight me head-on, General. What kind of skill is only knowing how to sneak attack? Waving his remaining arm and the long-handled saber, cutting out a flurry of saber light, Jeoj roared in anger and despair. For a full hour, Su Bai charged forward countless times, engaging Jeoj in a direct battle. Whenever his health dropped below 100, he would temporarily retreat, devouring goblin corpses to recover from his injuries, then charge out again to continue the fight. In that hour, Su Bai used shadow assault no less than 10 times, and the number of direct confrontations was countless. He was repelled countless times, accumulating over 5,000 points in lost health. Even his heavy-plated carapace shattered, repaired, becoming tougher and thicker with each engagement. The results of these countless battles were also obvious. With the passive skill, limb regeneration, Su Bai's health remained full, and all his injuries were healed. In fact, thanks to Jeoj acting as a live target, Su Bai's combat power also received a significant boost. His attributes and skills hadn't improved yet, but his fighting style had matured, and his control over his body had grown stronger. In contrast, Geoj was in a miserable state. All of his goblin guards had been killed, and the ordinary goblins were scared out of their wits, hiding far away, not daring to participate in the battle. Having been attacked countless times, one of Geoj's eyes had burst, one arm had been bitten off, and his body was covered in countless scars. Even his majestic black armor was now covered in dust and blood, looking dilapidated. Su Bai still maintained full combat power, while Goblin General Geoj had reached his limit. No sneak attack was needed. He could no longer withstand Su Bai's next attack. "You are very powerful, truly worthy of being THES great boss. I'm not your match in a head-on confrontation, but I'm sorry. I need your experience, I need your evolution points, and even more, I need the attribute template from you. So, goodbye." Muttering a few words to himself, Su Bai's body slightly crouched down. His 4 powerful legs sprang up like coiled springs, and his figure transformed into a black streak, pouncing towards Geoj. Clang! The exhausted Geoj barely managed to block Su Bai's first attack with his long-handled saber, but he couldn't block the second. Su Bai's figure landed behind Geoj, whose movements, however, had come to a halt. A fist-sized hole appeared in the chest of the black armor, directly piercing Geoj's heart. Despicable! My kingdom! With great difficulty, Geoj uttered a few disjointed syllables before his massive body crashed to the ground. Dust billowed everywhere. Ding! You have killed Goblin General Geoj, gaining 5,000 experience points and 5 soul points. You have killed Goblin General Geoj across multiple levels. Goblin General Geoj possesses a Lord Attribute Template. You have obtained the Attribute Template possessed by Goblin General Geoj. Do you wish to replace it? Finally, it's mine. When the system notification sounded as expected, Su Bai let out a long breath. A Lord Tier Attribute Template. Ignoring the continuous notifications in his mind, Su Bai opened his attribute panel to inspect the details of the attribute template possessed by Geoj. Template, Lord Attribute Template. Source, Goblin General Geoj. Bonus, Health plus 8,000, Strength * 25, Agility * 1, Constitution * 20, Spirit * 1. Skills, Savage Charge, Earth Splitter, Bloodthirsty Frenzy. Savage Charge, active skill. Consumes half of your stamina to lock onto an enemy within 20 meters and initiate an unavoidable savage charge. Upon hitting, the enemy will be airborne and take physical damage equal to Strength * 1. Earth Splitter, active skill. Consumes half of your stamina to unleash a large amount of blade light, dealing physical damage equal to Strength * 2 to enemies within a 3x3 area in front of you. Bloodthirsty Frenzy, state skill. Consumes 1/3 of your health to temporarily increase physical damage by 25%. Skill duration, 10 seconds. An extremely powerful attribute template. The high health bonus of 8,000 points and the 47 attribute points per level all demonstrated the power of this Lord Attribute Template. Coupled with the 3 powerful skills that came with this template, Geoj was essentially a combination of a warrior and a tank. If he hadn't possessed various powerful passive skills, and if he hadn't had an agility advantage over Geoj, Su Bai might not have been Geoj's opponent. With such an attribute template, Geoj was truly worthy of the title of Novice Village's Great Boss. As for whether to replace it, after a brief thought, Su Bai chose to decline. He had already seen the power of improving his own attribute template. If he could advance his attribute template to the Lord tier, it would likely be even stronger than the one Geoj possessed. Moreover, the attribute template he cultivated himself was the most suitable for him. Su Bai had no interest in becoming a clumsy, brute force shield warrior. Next, it was time to tally the gains from this venture. Leaving aside the large number of goblin corpses and the experience, evolution points, and gene points they represented, he had acquired 6 attribute templates just from conquering Goblin City this time. 4 elite attribute templates, from 4 Goblin Centurions. 1 Warrior Attribute Template, from the Goblin Priest. 1 Lord Attribute Template, from Goblin General Geoj. First, let's see what level these attribute templates can raise my current attribute template to. After a moment of thought, Su Bai silently recited in his mind. Use all attribute templates as experience, and invest them into my currently owned attribute template. As Subai spoke, all 6 attribute templates he possessed disappeared. On the attribute panel, the progress bar for his attribute templates rapidly increased. 5%, 10%, 50%, 100%. Ding! Your attribute template has reached the limit for its current level. Do you wish to advance? Advance. The next moment, the advanced attribute template transformed into an elite attribute template. The progress of the elite attribute template continued to rise. 1%, 7%, 23%. When Jeoj's Lord template was also converted into experience and fed into it, the elite template's progress rapidly increased again. 37%, 56%, 89%, 100%. Ding! Your attribute template has reached the limit for its current level. Do you wish to advance? Advance. After the second advancement, the experience from the Lord template was finally depleted, and Subai's brand new attribute template finally began to generate. Attribute template merging. Extracting combat style. Skill generation in progress. Advancement starting. Ding! Your attribute template advancement is complete. After a few minutes of waiting, his attribute template advancement was finally complete. Subai immediately opened his attribute panel to inspect the advanced template's attributes. Template, Warrior Attribute Template. Source, Elite Attribute Template Advancement. Bonus, Health plus 3000, Mana plus 500, Strength *15, Agility *10, Constitution *10, Spirit *5. Skills, Physical Resistance, Bloodlust. Physical Resistance, Passive Skill, Novice. Having endured high-intensity physical attacks for a long time, you, with the Adaptability talent, have gained resistance to physical attacks. With this skill, you can slightly reduce damage from physical attacks and moderately mitigate damage from states such as piercing, bleeding, and serious injury. Bloodlust, Status Skill. Consumes 1/3 of your health to temporarily increase physical attack by 10% and attack speed by 5%. Skill duration, 10 seconds. When Subai saw his newly acquired attribute template, he was inexplicably excited. Even as just a warrior-level attribute template, his attribute template was already comparable to Jeoj's Lord-level template. Although the health bonus was slightly lower, it was well-balanced with no weaknesses. Combined with Subai's Devour Evolution and Soul Stat Allocation talents, this was not mediocrity, but rather an all-round development without weaknesses. He believed that when his attribute template advanced to Lord level, it would be even more powerful than Jeoj's Lord template. Glancing at his current soul points, Subai prepared to upgrade his skills. After several days of hunting, he had gained another 4 soul points. Adding the 5 soul points given by Goblin General Jeoj, Subai now had a total of 11 soul points. First, Bloodlust. This skill, somewhat similar to Jeoj's Bloodthirsty Frenzy, could play a huge role at critical moments. With 1 soul point added, Bloodlust's consumption became 1/4, its duration became 20 seconds, and it could increase physical attack by 15% and attack speed by 10%. Continue adding. The consumption became 1/5, the duration extended to 30 seconds, and the increased attack and speed increased to 20% and 15% respectively. The third point, the fourth point. When Subai invested 4 soul points into Bloodlust, the skill blurred and transformed into a brand new skill. Bloodthirsty Battle Frenzy. Status Skill. Consumes 1/10 of your health to temporarily increase physical attack by 50% and attack speed by 45%. Duration, 120 seconds. A 2-minute duration, 50% physical attack, and 45% attack speed made this skill another one of Subai's trump cards. Next was Physical Resistance. After investing 1 soul point, Physical Resistance advanced from Novice to Intermediate. After this single upgrade, Physical Resistance did not behave like other resistances and become unupgradable. The small plus next to it was still lit. Without hesitation, another 1 soul point was invested. The already intermediate Physical Resistance quietly disappeared, and the skill, Reinforced Carapace, transformed into a brand new skill. Resistant Carapace, passive skill. A sturdy yet flexible carapace provides you with powerful defensive capabilities. You can moderately reduce damage from physical attacks and greatly mitigate damage from states such as piercing, bleeding, and serious injury. Looking at his greatly changed skill description, Subai pondered. Reinforced carapace and intermediate physical resistance have similar effects, which is why they merged. What about elemental resistances? If I can gather all elemental resistances, or upgrade them to a higher level, will elemental resistances also merge with the carapace? Looking at the 3 resistance skills that were still not lit, Subai silently stopped allocating soul points and opened his quest panel instead. Before this, he had accepted a quest. Rise of the Goblin Kingdom. Even in the most foolish of races, a wise one can be born. Having accidentally acquired ancestral heritage, Goblin Jeoj's strength greatly increased. He defeated numerous goblin tribes and unified them, proclaiming himself great general, preparing to establish the Goblin Kingdom and unify the Gloomy Jungle. As a member of the Gloomy Jungle, you have only 2 choices: gain Jeoj's trust and join the Goblin Kingdom, or kill Jeoj and prevent the establishment of the Goblin Kingdom. Join the Goblin Kingdom, or kill Jeoj and prevent the establishment of the Goblin Kingdom. Now that Jeoj and his many elites had all become experience for Subai's evolution, this quest was undoubtedly completed. When the quest panel was opened, a clear system prompt sounded in Subai's mind. Ding! You have killed Goblin Great General Jeoj and completed the quest, Rise of the Goblin Kingdom. You can choose 2 options from the following as rewards for completing the quest. 1. You killed Goblin Great General Jeoj and dismantled the soon-to-be-established Goblin Kingdom. You can choose to replace Jeoj's position in the Gloomy Jungle and become the new Overlord of the Gloomy Jungle. As the Overlord of the Gloomy Jungle, you can freely choose your dependents and kin. 2. You single-handedly dismantled the soon-to-be-established Goblin Kingdom, demonstrating immense courage and wisdom. You can designate 1 skill to instantly upgrade. This skill can exceed the maximum limit your body can currently withstand. 3. You, with the Devour Evolution talent, are destined to be extraordinary, but even the greatest potential needs time to grow. You can perform mimetic evolution during your next evolution, greatly enhancing the intensity of the next evolution. 4. You can obtain 30 free attribute points. 5. You can randomly draw 1 piece of equipment with a quality no lower than gold tier. This equipment can be equipped and used by you. 5 rewards, choose 2. Reading through the 5 options listed by the system, Subai couldn't help but marvel at the sheer generosity of the mission rewards this time. Out of the 5 options, the least valuable to Subai was the 4th one, 30 free attribute points. Even so, this reward was enough to greatly enhance one of his attributes, making it significantly stronger or compensating for a weakness in another area. The remaining 4 options all held extremely high value. The first option, replacing Jeoj to become the Overlord of the Gloomy Jungle, unequivocally conveyed one message: Jeoj, the Novice Village Big Boss and Overlord of the Gloomy Jungle, is dead, and Subai could replace him at any time to become the next Novice Village Big Boss. Furthermore, after becoming the Overlord of the Gloomy Jungle, he would be free to choose his own retainers and dependent race. Retainers are equivalent to the Goblin Priests and Goblin Centurions under Jeoj's command, while the dependent race is the Goblin species that Jeoj belonged to. The second option would allow Subai to gain a powerful skill ahead of time. If this option were applied to Sharp Claws, his attack power would increase significantly. If applied to Resistant Carapace, his defense would soar. Either choice would immediately boost Subai's strength. The third option enhances the next evolution. Although the exact effect of mimetic evolution is currently unknown, this reward would undoubtedly provide a massive boost to his future strength. As for the last option, equipment. And its equipment he can use, no lower than gold rank. This is a game world where leveling up, fighting monsters, and securing equipment drops is undoubtedly the mainstream. But Subai is a monster, one that cannot use equipment at all. During previous hunts, Subai had acquired quite a few magic items. But these items could only serve as food, becoming evolution points on his attribute panel instead of being utilized directly. Choosing this option would immediately make up for the regret in his heart. Moreover, gold rank equipment would likely raise his strength by another notch instantly. How to choose? Su Bai fell into deep thought. After a long time, he finally let out a long breath. Equipment is ultimately external. Even if it temporarily boosts my strength, as I grow, the utility of gold equipment will diminish. Silently marking the fifth option with an X, Su Bai looked at the remaining three. Mimetic evolution was certainly a must-have. No one would pass up higher potential. A reward that can greatly enhance the effect of evolution, once missed, might never be obtained again. So, that leaves becoming the overlord of the gloomy jungle, or gaining a powerful skill ahead of time. Goblins are no longer a threat, and players won't appear for a while. Becoming the overlord of the gloomy jungle means there is nothing left in the gloomy jungle that can threaten my existence. Since my strength is sufficient for now, then. Having made up his mind, Su Bai silently declared, I choose the first and third options as rewards for completing the mission. Ding! You have become the overlord of the gloomy jungle and automatically gain Lord's Might. You can freely choose your retainers and dependent race. When you abandon the identity of the gloomy jungle overlord, Lord's Might, retainers, and dependent race will automatically disappear. When your template rises to the Lord rank, Lord's Might, retainers, and dependent race will be permanently solidified. Ding! You can use mimetic evolution during your next evolution, greatly enhancing the intensity of the next evolution. Following the crisp system notification, an invisible aura of power emanated from Su Bai. This aura of power was the Lord's Might. Any creature in the gloomy jungle will be affected by the Lord's Might. Even if they are hostile, under the suppression of the Lord's Might, enemies will find it difficult to exert their full strength. Unless the enemy's template reaches the Lord rank. On Su Bai's attribute panel, the top column quietly changed from the original name to identity. Identity, Lord of the Gloomy Jungle, Su Bai. An identity. Staring intently at his attribute panel for a moment, Su Bai's mood was a little complicated. From now on, I am the Novice Village Big Boss. Looking across the entire game world, the Novice Village Big Boss is just the most basic level of boss, but it is a perfect starting point. He was able to evolve from a faint level ant into a Novice Village Big Boss in just a few dozen days. In the future, he might very well grow into a great demon god, towering above all living things and unrivaled. After taking another look at his attribute panel, Su Bai closed it and began handling the remaining spoils. 1 Lord rank, 1 Warrior rank, 4 Elite rank, and a large number of advanced and common level goblin corpses represented a massive amount of experience, evolution points, and gene points. As for the other goblins, long before Su Bai killed Geoj, those timid and foolish goblins had scattered and fled in all directions. Spending an hour devouring all the goblin corpses, Su Bai's level rose to 10, and he gained a massive amount of evolution points and gene points. After crushing the last two-handed greatsword and swallowing it, Su Bai stored the long-handled broadsword and black armor dropped by Geoj into his storage space and prepared to leave. Yes, storage space. When he chose to become the overlord of the gloomy jungle, Su Bai gained a 5x5x5 storage space. Since he had become a big boss, he naturally had equipment drops. From now on, any item Su Bai stored in his storage space could potentially become his drop item. As for why he didn't eat the 2 pieces of equipment Geoj dropped, Su Bai guessed that they were likely gold rank, and given the current sharpness of his mandibles, he couldn't crush equipment of that rank yet. As for what comes next, it's time to find retainers and develop his dependent race. Only when his retainers and dependent race are fully developed will Su Bai, the Lord of the Gloomy Jungle, be a truly deserving Novice Village Big Boss. Retainers and kin are something every boss possesses. Just like the Goblin Priests, Goblin Centurions, and the Goblin race under Goblin General Gog. The strength of a boss's retainers and kin largely determines their status in the game world. Of course, every boss is free to decide whether or not to develop retainers and kin. If this were any other world, Su Bai would definitely choose to abandon retainers and kin. Wouldn't it be better to just eat, kill, and continuously evolve by devouring others to strengthen himself? Why bother expending effort developing retainers and kin? But this is a game world. What is the most terrifying thing in a game world? Players. When the game launches and tens of thousands of players descend, it will be the doomsday for the many bosses in this world. Forget about Subai, a newly promoted novice village boss. Even higher level bosses won't be able to withstand the overwhelming player attacks. Subai didn't dare hope these retainers and kin could block the players' attacks, but at the very least, when the players appeared, he would have cannon fodder to use, creatures that could help him and buy him more time in the short term. Moreover, if he could truly develop his retainers and kin, even if he couldn't counterattack the players, he would at least have a foothold in this world. Therefore, developing retainers and kin is quite necessary. As for the choice of retainers and kin, Subai had already made up his mind. 2 days later, Subai returned from the depths of the gloomy jungle to its edge, the location of the ant nest where he was born. After several evolutions and upgrades, Subai's body had grown to over a meter long and more than 30 centimeters high. With a physique like this, entering the ant nest was naturally impossible. Appearing beneath the short cliff face, Subai extended a sharp claw and easily destroyed the rock, enlarging the entrance to the ant nest several times over. Countless ants poured out of the nest. Under the influence of Subai's lordly might, these tiny creatures, possessing almost no intelligence, immediately lost control of their bodies. They obediently lay on the ground, watching Subai destroy their home again and again. Half an hour later, the massive ant nest was almost completely excavated by Subai. Deepest inside the nest, a plump, white queen ant, a full 5 centimeters long, was clearly sprawled in the middle of the chamber. Sensing the faint fear emanating from the queen ant, Subai expressionlessly scooped her out and placed her among the swarm of ants on the ground. Then, following the vague memories in his mind, Subai continued digging. This time, his movements were much gentler, as if afraid of harming something. Slowly but surely, another half hour passed. A burrow, incredibly tiny compared to the current Subai, appeared before his eyes. Inside this burrow, a small, pitch-black worker ant, 3 centimeters long, was feeding absent-mindedly, continuously stuffing rounded larval food into its mouth. It was the small worker ant that had been responsible for taking care of the larvae back then. Subai didn't know why the small worker ant had undergone such a significant change in just over 10 days. But based on the feeling in his heart, he knew this was the only small worker ant he cared about. The moment Subai saw the small worker ant, it stopped eating. It lifted its head and stared blankly at Subai for a moment. Then it crawled up to Subai, placed a small sphere in front of him, and released several different scents by gently waving its black antennae. Eat. I, also, eat. Get big. When Subai deciphered the meaning conveyed by the scent released by the small worker ant, he suddenly felt tears welling up. It was like a long-separated wanderer finally returning home. Since being reborn into this world, Subai had been constantly fearful. Even though he possessed 3 extremely powerful innate skills, and even though he had crossed a chasm in 10 days that most monsters couldn't cross in a lifetime, this feeling had not diminished. No one could communicate with him. He also didn't know when the players would descend and turn him into experience and levels, just as he had done to others before. In this despairing world, only the small worker ant made him feel warmth. Especially now. Returning victorious after successfully slaying Gog and becoming the overlord of the gloomy jungle, he found that the small worker ant was also working hard. It was trying hard to eat, trying hard to grow bigger. It was following in his footsteps. Even though the small worker ant's progress was pitifully small compared to Subai's, it was still striving. Subai could clearly sense that the small worker ant had evolved from the faint grade to the minute grade. In the entire ant nest, aside from the queen ant who was already minute grade, the small worker ant was the only one that had evolved. Furthermore, even while evolving, the small worker ant had not forgotten Subai. When he appeared, it recognized Subai immediately and, just like before, placed larval food in front of him. Even given his current size, this little bit of food wasn't even enough to stick between his teeth. A wave of warmth filled his heart. Two soft, glowing orbs appeared between Subai's sharp claws sometime unnoticed. With a slight movement, these two orbs flew toward the small worker ant and the queen ant, respectively. The next moment, crisp system notifications rang out one after another. Ding! You have selected the ant race as your kin. Are you sure? Ding! You have selected the queen ant as your retainer. Are you sure? Ding! You have selected the small worker ant as your retainer. Are you sure? That's right. The small worker ant and the queen ant were the retainers Subai had chosen for himself, and the ant race he originated from was the kin he had designated. Subai made the decision to choose the little worker ant and the queen ant as his retainers and the ant race as his kin only after careful consideration. As it stands, the ant race is incredibly weak. Apart from Subai, only the little worker ant and the queen ant have reached the minute tier. It could be said that the combined might of the entire race might not even be a match for a level 1 monster, much less compared to a race like the goblins. However, the ant race possesses a potential that is difficult for ordinary people to perceive. Among Subai's 3 major talents, the adaptability talent originates from the ant race. This means that every ant in the entire race has the potential to awaken the adaptability talent. Even if the probability is extremely minute, the possibility is genuinely there. If one ant cannot awaken the adaptability talent, what about 100? If 100 don't work, then 1,000. If 1,000 don't work, then 10,000, or even 100,000. Provided there is enough food, a queen ant can expand the colony to tens of thousands in a very short period. Under Subai's control, reaching hundreds of thousands is not impossible. Subai still remembered the system's description: even insects possess infinite possibilities. Furthermore, he had a few conjectures brewing. Since he chose a faint tier race as his kin, the system would certainly provide corresponding compensation for the sake of balance, specifically, an enhancement to the ant race. After all, besides him, no one would choose a group of faint tier creatures, who aren't even official monsters, as their kin. As expected, the moment Subai confirmed his choice of the ant colony as his kin, the system prompt sounded. Ding! You have chosen ants as your kin. You may select 2 options from the following list to serve as racial talents for the ant colony. 1. Adaptability. The ant colony's adaptability talent has been enhanced. Every ant born has a 1 in 1,000 chance of awakening the adaptability talent. 2. Rapid digestion. Ants chosen as kin gain the ability of rapid digestion, enabling them to grow at a much faster rate. 3. Reinforced carapace. Ants chosen as kin possess a tougher carapace, allowing them to withstand more damage than other insects. 4. Weakened camouflage. As a race that originated from the faint tier, ants chosen as kin can more easily blend into their surroundings, significantly reducing the hostility of other creatures. 4 options, 4 talents. Without hesitation, Subai chose the adaptability talent and the rapid digestion talent. With these 2 racial talents, the ant's potential is now comparable to that of the goblins. Furthermore, given sufficient food and time to grow, this ant colony might even become a miracle in the game world. With the kin settled, it was time for Subai's retainers. Upon becoming the lord of the gloomy jungle, the number of retainer slots Subai received was not fixed. He could have 2 retainers with the champion template, or he could split those champion template retainers into 4 elite template retainers, or further split the elite template retainers into 10 advanced template retainers. Clearly, Joj chose to utilize this splitting mechanism. That is why he possessed 1 champion tier goblin priest and 4 elite tier goblin centurions under his command. Subai defined his kin around group combat, aiming to overwhelm opponents with an endless insectoid tide, so naturally, he would not casually split the retainer slots. He directly bestowed the 2 champion tier attribute templates upon the little worker ant and the queen ant. Similar to the kin selection process. Since the little worker ant and the queen ant were also merely faint tier creatures, not even reaching the level of official monsters, when Subai chose them as his retainers, the system likewise presented several options for their talent abilities. Identity, queen ant. Race, ant. Level, minute tier. Template, Champion Attribute Template, HP plus 2000, Strength *5, Agility *1, Constitution *25, Spirit *3. Attributes, Strength 0.11, Agility 0.02, Constitution 0.5, Spirit 0.0.